Okay, we're going to take a journey down what's called stuck on stupid. Okay, but this is so common, but it's such a great question because it is such a common issue to where people from the school, even in administration, because they're ignorant of the nuances of the rules, will so confidently ram stuff down a parent's throat and end up creating problems and end up violating rights in a substantive manner, meaning a meaningful manner, because they're obsessed with the procedural nonsense that they just simply don't have correct. So this happens more than you would think, that these procedural obsessions, when they try to correct them, end up bullying the parents who have a right to full parental participation, who have a right to proper notice and participation, then end up causing some real problems to where, like I said, it could end up impacting the substance of your child's IEP, which then becomes a violation of your child's right to a free, appropriate public education. It's a snowball effect. So let's see how this pebble potentially, as it rolls down this snow-packed hill, turns into an avalanche, okay? How many days is considered insufficient or sufficient notice for an IEP meeting? I thought it was 7 days. It's, it just depends on the state, but, it needs to be sufficient to where you, as an IEP team member, valuable member of the IEP team, can plan accordingly, okay? The schedule located in, I'm not going to say the school name, but it's in Alabama, is saying 48 hours is sufficient notice. I don't agree with that. But I mean, is there any kind of strict rule, saying that it's got to be within no, not really. There's just sort of been some standard practice, and, sort of like not showing up to somebody's house unannounced. It's just sort of rude. They realized my child's IEP is expiring and was rushing to get it done before the expiration date. Common. We moved from a different school system to them in August. They blamed the mistake on the other school system who dated the IEP from September to September, the end of September 2021. The county school says IEP should be done August to May and not the other way the school system did it. So my second question, would it be wrong to write an IEP that is not dated August to May? And the answer to that is no. The law says that an IEP can run calendar year to calendar year. That's what the law says. And I have many IEPs that run from October to October, that run from December to December, January to January, September to September. Yes, it can be done. Now, do I think that that's efficient? No, I don't think it's efficient. Why is that? Because you have 1 month or 2 months of your child's IEP that have now filtered into the next school year. I feel the same way about ones that run from January or December to December. You're splitting goals. You're splitting the child's, let's say, especially if you're designing goals attached to the academic standards, the state standards, then at that point, you have IEP goals that, let's say the child's in 5th grade in January. Well, in August, now they're in 6th grade. And so for the second half of the school year, now they're on 6th grade standards, or they're supposed to be. And so many times schools don't adjust the goals accordingly. And so these split IEPs, they're not efficient, but do they comply with the law? The law says calendar year, 1 calendar year. So it can be at different points within that calendar year. What is the efficient way? I think the efficient way is to run IEPs from school year to school year, which would be, August to May. Okay. But technically, it would be August to August. You would include the summer. Because if your child, let's say, qualifies for extended school year services, it would be based upon that prior year's IEP and not your new one. Okay? That's how that analysis goes. So to answer this question, they were obsessed with having that meeting within 48 hours because your IEP was out of whack. It wasn't out of whack. They had plenty of time. Now, I know we're in October, but you answered this question. Well, I guess you know, I guess you were close to the deadline. You know, but that was their mistake. Now, how could they have fixed it without causing, you know, nonsense and disruption and mayhem? They could have mutually asked you to extend the current IEP for, you know, 2 weeks, even if you were close to that cutoff date. Very easy to do. If the IEP team, if the parents approve and give consent to, let's say, use that IEP for another 2 weeks, while they're trying to defect the issue and come up. But quite frankly, when you moved into the district, all this stuff is computerized. They just, somebody dropped the ball over there. So instead of taking responsibility and saying, hey, we weren't watching and we weren't paying attention, we just made some assumptions that you moved in with a current IEP. What's more concerning to me is that they didn't notice it until toward the end of the expiration date, which means, did they even read your child's IEP? Because, I mean, that's just sort of on the heading. That's just simple. It's there. Did they just assume, did they even look at your child's IEP? That would be the more concerning part to me, is that they made an assumption that your child had an IEP running from August to May. And then when somebody finally caught the date, oh my God, you know, now everybody's freaking out. And then wanting to throw an IEP together. That's the other very concerning aspect of just throwing something together because now I'm panicked. You moved in from another district. Did they reevaluate in your new school district? Do they even know your child? How did they develop a good IEP based upon good baselines and present levels of performance if they don't know your child? Did they ask you for consent to update evaluations? Or did they just slap something together because they were panicked and they needed to put an IEP in place? See, these things can be corrected as far as the defects. I mean, you know, they put a crappy IEP together, then, you know, yes, it establishes this as your base, but you can fix it. You just need to have another IEP meeting. There needs to be an amendment. Now, the problem is that, you know, you might need some assistance to get all that stuff corrected, depending on how bad it is. But, you know, your particular school system that you are in currently, I'm very familiar with, and I don't necessarily think they have a good director. I didn't used to have the kind of problems I have now. But that director that they have now, where they're having a lot of problems, including what you just named, came from a district that, quite frankly, I wouldn't send my child to, or I wouldn't condemn another child to be in that school system. They have administrative problems. And so if this director sort of was shown the ropes and understood how to do things, being in that school system for so long and then being hired over to yours, yeah, well, you know, that's not a shock as to why you're having issues. But because I sort of have knowledge about your district and why, that calls into concerns as to even what your IEP that they slapped into place looks like. Because like I said, how do they know your child? How can they even put together a good IEP? You're new to this district. They should, I mean, do they technically have to evaluate? Not if you're an in-state transfer. Not if you're an in-state transfer. But the risk is that if you don't update the evaluations and you don't know the child and you put together a crappy IEP, then at that point, you're susceptible to a due process. You're susceptible to a mediation request. You're susceptible to denying that child's right to a free, appropriate public education. And, you know, I don't think that's very smart for a school system to do. If you have an incoming transfer in state with an IEP, go through the motions of doing some evaluations, get some good results, Understand who the child is. Don't sit there and do what so many schools do, and they use that first year that the child arrives as some get to know you period. You know, oh, well, we got a grace period because we got to get to know. No, that child is entitled to a free, appropriate public education from the day they step in your school. You have the mechanism within the law that requires you to understand the child's present levels of performance. How do you understand that? Through assessments, evaluations, and observations. Those things require parental consent. If you did not get parental consent to do that, then how in the hell are you going to sit there and establish good present levels of performance, understand the child so that you can develop a good IEP? You can't. So, you know, that's where you guys are. You know, these defects, yes, they should give you sufficient time. And when they give you a meeting notice, then you just sit there and write somewhere on that meeting notice, anywhere where there's blank space, you handwrite out that you work, you have a conflict, you have every desire to participate in the IEP meeting, you do not give permission for them to proceed, you require them to identify 3 alternative dates that work with you, that will provide you enough time to get off of work or to ensure that you have time within your schedule to participate. Okay? You write that out, make yourself a copy, and then return the meeting notice to them. Don't just check the boxes. Those forms are filled out. Those things are just templates, guys. It does not explain your life condition as a parent. And so you don't want to give these people control over the document by having just these ambiguous boxes to where they sit there and they go, oh, the parent doesn't want to participate. No, I never said that. But there's no box in here that says, hey, idiot, you only gave me 48 hours. There's nothing in there that says that. So that means that you need to sit there and take any kind of empty space on that official form and write out in a very professional manner that this time doesn't work for you because I work, because of this situation. Please identify 3 alternative dates I can choose from so that we can participate in the IEP meeting. Make yourself a copy, send it back. If they end up giving you a second notice and threatening you again and saying it has to be done on this date, write on the second notice, again, because of my work situation, blah, 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 I cannot participate on this date. I do not give you permission to move forward with the meeting. Please choose 3 alternative dates for me to choose from. If they go ahead and make the ultimate stupid mistake of having an IEP meeting without you, then you have your 2 meeting notices to where you were reasonable. You requested that they were flexible. And if they do this meeting, guys, it's not the end of the world. It just sort of gives you an ace in the hole. They screwed up. You didn't. But you need to sit there and make sure that you establish a correct timeline so that they can't frame that you were difficult. They can't frame that you didn't want to participate. Do you see how that works? That meeting notice is important. Make sure that you use it to sort of explain a narrative, why you can't. I work. Isn't it amazing that all these people get paid for meeting with you? You don't get paid for meeting with them. They have the legal duty to provide your child a FAPE. They have a legal requirement to understand what the timeline is on your child's IEP. And they screwed up, and so therefore they want to put pressure on you, potentially creating loss of income from your family? No, no. All things that can be corrected, because I'm sure that they would just have the IEP meeting without you, because they already sort of don't understand how the law works anyway. But like I said, in situations like that, if they did something like that, then you call somebody like me. And then I can sit there and help you sort it out. You know, it's not hard to sort these things out. And even without me, you know, you can convene another IEP meeting to fix what they did wrong. You have your documentation that they had a meeting in violation of your requests. Hold on to that. That's powerful. Because if this IEP that they developed without you is a disastrous piece of trash nonsense, which it looks like it's going to be, then here you go. Hey, here's my documentation. I was denied my ability to participate. Oh, well, they were panicked, you see. Somebody didn't look at a date. You see how that works? So don't jump on the panic ship with these people, because you can always call amended IEP meetings. Just don't ever ignore a meeting notice. Send the meeting notice back, but explain at the bottom, guys, whether you can participate, whether you can't participate. But if you can't explain why, to a degree, I mean, you don't have to sit there and give them your entire schedule, but you sit there and you say, look, I work, these are the days I have off. Please provide me 3 alternative dates to choose from. And, you can sit there and steer clear. But if they don't give you sufficient time, notice needs to be within that reasonable time. All right, 48 hours I don't think is reasonable. But it all depends. Some people might find it reasonable. I don't find it reasonable.